What are you waiting for?
I don't even know who you are.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from coldsploitation.com. I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Doing all right.
Are we though?
I don't know. Are we though? I don't know. I guess we'll talk about that. I do have one thing to tell you though. I recall what happened to you the previous winter.
I do too.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I shit my pants.
No, but I just
No.
wanted to get you to admit something on the podcast that you
God.
you might not want to. No. Yes. So we were talking about this, kind of jumping away from what I was just talking about there. We were talking about this when we were at the movie theater. In that it seems like a lot of times now there's like this lead up to movies where you're like, the movie's in progress, it's coming out, and you're like, oh, I got that on my radar. Really thinking about that movie, like, interested in seeing it at some point. And then all of a sudden, it's just there. It's just in theaters, and you're like, where did that come from? It's like the Fast and Furious sequel. It just comes out of nowhere. And that's been happening with me of late, to the point where I was like, wow, I can't believe, Superman's in theaters. I can't believe Eddington's in theaters already. I didn't realize that Fantastic Four was going to be already in theaters. And it just kind of sneaks up on you now. And I don't know if that's because I just don't watch a lot of TV anymore, so I don't see like trailers like being bombarded at me in commercials all the time or what. But for whatever reason, all these movies are really sneaking up on me now. And I think that kind of leads me into the movie that we're covering today, which is another one of those ones that was on the horizon. And I was like, I know it's coming. I know like it's been worked on and posters and trailers have been released, but I had no real understanding of the actual release date of the film. And then all of a sudden we went to the movies to see Superman, and there it was on the marquee. And I was like, oh, I guess it's already in theaters. I thought it was more like an August release, but apparently here we are. So, all that to say, we're covering I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 requel something, however you want to call it. Requel or reimagining, remakeableness. It is really a requel in the sense that it's kind of a bit literally revitalizing the same idea, but also it takes place in a universe that recognizes that the original movie actually took place. So, in that scenario, it's, I think, probably the definition of a requel, would you say?
Yeah, I'd agree.
And basically taking cues from Scream, of course, which had its own revitalization and requel that we've covered on the show since the Scream 5 came out. How well versed are you, and how much are you nostalgic for the original I Know What You Did Last Summer? I know we covered it. We've done it on the show.
I've seen it a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Because they used to play it on TV a billion times, so I am familiar with it. However, I can't say that much is like nothing about the original, like I would say, is like noteworthy to ever keep forever lodged in my mind. And yeah. So, and the same thing with the sequel. I've seen the sequel a couple of times. I don't remember fucking all about it. So
yeah,
I
feel like, so we did I Know What You Did Last Summer way back, probably
90 Slasher Month.
Yeah, way early on in the podcast for 90 Slasher Month. And
let's check it out, by the way. One of our greatest openings for themed month.
I think even in that episode, we were pretty critical of I Know What You Did Last Summer as a 90s slasher film. Because again, it did come out in the same time period of trying to basically take Scream's formula, and then, kind of just shuffle it around a little bit, but it was pretty reminiscent of Scream in a lot of ways. And we were pretty critical and not really all that nostalgic, I want to say, about the basis for that film. And not only that, it also is kind of interesting that it does, I Know What You Did Last Summer was a book, and I've never read the book itself, but I am pretty sure that the Lois Duncan book has really very little to do with the actual movie. It didn't really, I think they just really wanted to take the name, and that was pretty much it. Like, because the name is catchy. It hooks you right away. It's just something that, stands out immediately about the film. And I feel like when we think back about that movie, the 1997 slasher, there's really not much else that sticks out about it except the title. It has Jennifer Love Hewitt and was a really big jumping off point for Jennifer Love Hewitt. It was another film written by Kevin Williamson, again, which was
launched her right into 13 going on.
Yep. And again, at that time, Kevin Williamson was, fresh off of Scream, and basically companies were throwing themselves at Kevin Williamson to write them another release that would do as well as Scream. And so that's kind of the impetus for I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then the one other thing that you probably would know about I Know What You Did Last Summer, and possibly people who weren't even really big horror fans would probably know this, is it had a guy with a fish hook and a raincoat or rain slicker, however you like to phrase it in your vernacular. Other than that, though, to think back on the movie, I really don't know that there was any other recognizable element to the movie that would stand out and be like, that's I Know What You Did Last Summer. Maybe Sarah Michelle Gellar, because
Ryan Phillippe's hair.
Ryan Phillippe's hair, which was that slicked back, and also wearing wife beater most of the time,
blonde tips.
Yeah, and I think maybe Sarah Michelle Gellar would be a big standout in that she was in the movie, and died in the movie, and because again, this was another time period where she was showing up in lots of slasher films. She was in Scream 2 as well. And again, getting both Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar together for Cruel Intentions as well, which we've also done on the show.
Great movie, great review. Check it out.
Yeah. We did that one, I want to say maybe 2 years ago now. But yeah, in terms of requels, how willing are you to accept all of these new requels coming out? Are you do they make you excited? Are you happy that they're banking on the nostalgia in at least in the case that we'll talk about in this movie, a nostalgia that probably most of its viewing base does not have? It doesn't have the working knowledge of it. How do you feel about it?
Well, one, unlike you, I'm not that like you, I should say. Movies do sneak up and bite me in the ass because I don't have TV. I have a couple of, streaming services, and I have a browser on my computer that has ad block. So I don't get bombarded with the, most commercials and stuff. So when you mention half the time, oh, this movie's coming out, it's oh, wow, half the stuff I see is on Facebook, and half the time it's not even a lot of things that are even being shown on Facebook because it's a shithole. But speaking of that, I am not thrilled at all at the idea of a remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer. I can see why, because it's 30 years now. 28. So they should have just waited another 2 years to release it.
30th anniversary.
At least give it something to, have a reason for. Yeah, I mean, horrors and slashers, whether they're worth a damn or not, and whether the original was worth a damn or not, they always get remakes because they're just really easy fodder to, tweak and like, oh, let's make it like, more modern for today's audiences. Most of the time, they're just as schlocky and bullshit as the originals. But now that we're old men, it does enter into kind of like why bother territory? Because I was definitely on board with like why are we even doing this? And when you watch the movie, it's even more. The film aggressively hates you. And if you're a millennial or Gen X, it's just pissing on you and saying eat this shit.
It's actively saying you're too old.
Uh-huh.
You've reached an age where we do not want you to be able to have this accessibly anymore. I don't know. We'll talk about that probably as we get further into the movie. But
like you said, like you were joking, and you're like, oh, what's the next thing you're gonna do? Probably like fucking Urban Legend, and it's like again, a film that was like had a niche popularity at the time it came out because the Scream slasher revival, and people who like us that when we have done that film too for our 90s slasher month. If you've seen the movie before, you know it, but there's like few people out there that would be like, this is my favorite movie,
Yeah.
And nothing about it like really sticks out. Like again, that's a movie I saw a billion times on TV as a kid. Do like, I was like, do I remember it? Not really. Tara Reid's in it.
Mm-hmm.
They say slickers and galoshes. But so yeah, I mean, I wasn't that jazzed to see this movie.
Sure.
But we have a policy on the show, basically, like, once you're dug into a franchise, you kind of just have to start going, keeping up with it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to.
Otherwise, FOMO.
That's right. Yeah, and I would feel weird about not seeing I Know What You Did Last Summer as a slasher film that has recently come out, because, again, we've tried to cover slashers for the most part throughout, and not only just the ones that we've done previously that have been remade, but also some of the more recent ones that have come out, like Thanksgiving. I'm sorry. Thanksgiving we did, but that was a long time ago. It has a killer turkey. Thanksgiving, and Hard Eyes. So we try to, kind of keep up with some of those slashers, but it just makes sense to also cover this one. So, all right, let's take a break before we get into anything more about the movie, because I think we're itching to talk about the movie, but we're skirting around it. So talk about the beer that we have on the show today. I'll let you go with it. You're the one that picked it out. What'd you get?
Got us a. There hasn't been really that much. It's been too appealing to me of late because it's been, as we've said, for like 4 episodes straight. Hot as balls out because we have, record heat wave in this country. No one knows why. Some think it's magic. So other than like Miller High Life, nothing's really been speaking to me of late. But while traversing our local packy shop, while they're starting to get in some Oktoberfest, which we love here on the podcast, it's just too damn hot for it. So while walking around, I found a new release, at least for us, because I haven't seen it before, from a brewery that we've had a couple of times on here, Brooklyn Brewery, and it's their Fonio Rising Pale Ale. And I was interested because, one, I have nostalgia for Brooklyn, as we've probably talked about before on the podcast. It's a brewery kind of like Saranac and Sam Adams, where it's kind of like a brewery that craft brewery for us that's like got us into those original craft beers. Like I could never not talk positively about that original West Coast IPA they had. That was so damn good. And also, too, the other reason I got it was, even though pale ales aren't that great for the summer, with the last 5 years with hazies being so dominant, kind of nice to see, like, hey, a pale ale. See how it is. So that's why I went and grabbed it.
Awesome. What'd you think?
I think it's good. I think it's a bog standard craft pale ale. It's got a, nice smooth mouth feel. It has a nice, bready bite to the beginning. Very, it has citra hops to it. And I think mosaic. So it's got, a nice hot bite to it, but it's, thin mouth feel, so it goes down nice and smooth. It's good. It's just a good pale ale. And excuse me, as I'm having indigestion here. And like Sloop and a lot of other breweries that we have on here that are local, it's Brooklyn's got their niche. They are what they are. They've been around for forever. It's been a long time since I've had a beer from them that's wowed me. But again, what they make though is a solid product. So like it. I recommend people who are yearning to have a pale ale to try it. If not, then you might want to stay away from it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think this is a pretty standard pale ale style. A good pale ale, but also, very standard depending on how you feel about like, ancient African super grains. Your mileage may vary here, but basically this beer is it's called Fonio Rising, and it's meant to be, I guess, use the ancient West African grain Fonio, which is, I guess, a very prominent West African grain that helps, it is very, resilient, so it keeps coming back, and it helps, fund farmers. And so they've worked with getting this Fonio grain in to kind of, showcase that resilience and showcase like the Senegalese, grain to, I guess, show how it can impact your beers and make them a solid addition to your lineup. Now, again, I think this is one of those types of beers where the idea of it is much more interesting than the actual execution of it or what it actually ends up tasting like. To me, if you had just said this is Brooklyn Standard Pale Ale, I probably would not have batted an eye at it and said, wait a second, there's an ancient grain in there. It's one of those things where, like, I don't think it really comes out in the taste. Execution is fine because it just tastes like a pretty standard pale ale, but I think the story of the beer is what kind of sells this product more than anything. And it's probably another thing that's more interesting to brewers than it might be to an actual just beer drinker, because I think the end product doesn't really showcase anything different than a regular pale ale. But the idea is cool. I'm happy to support it. I'm happy to support Brooklyn, which, as you said, is a brewery that it really sits in its own niche. It's been around for a long time doing its thing. I'm very happy to stick within its specific cache of products. So I like Brooklyn. They never really, there's not a surprise. They're very consistent. I think Fonio Rising is a good beer, but again, I don't know that you really need to go out of your way to try to find it, because it's not like going to be surprising or eye-opening. It just does what it says on the tin, pale ale, but very drinkable, very sessionable. So recommended if you find it, but not going to blow your mind, I think. All right, let's dig in. I Know What You Did Last Summer, otherwise known as the Gen Z version of a slasher film, written by someone who is not Gen Z. And directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson. Jennifer Caton Robinson was born in 1988. She's a year older than we are. Yet, I Know What You Did Last Summer has the yassification factor up to a 9, I would say. That's, I think, one of the things, and I'm starting to feel this more and more, am I just being a cantankerous old person at this point? Because most modern movies are really passing me by at this point. I guess I shouldn't say most, but I do feel like I am falling out of the audience that's intended or recommended for a lot of the films that are coming out these days. Are we just getting to be the cantankerous?
I believe so, but at the same time, though, I mean, like, all these films have, like, some sort of cultural and, like, pandering, right? The difference is, at least with, like, when we saw Hard Eyes, that was leaning into very hard into Gen Z tropes. But it was funny and smart about it.
Still enjoyable.
Here, they're not even leaning into anything. It's just insufferable Gen Z twat waffles. Like, it's just...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think...
With your middle parts and, like, but also, so it's a mixture of both. Yes, we are getting old and, every time I see, like, because I know now, like, the popular, like, lady thing to do is wear baggy pants. I'm just thinking, like, 1997 right there, like, spoof. That's what those are. You're just wearing,
Went right back to it. Yeah. Yeah, could be. I know, and I don't know. So that's the thing that I always struggle with in these in types of movies like this now. Like, am I just getting old and I'm just cantankerous and it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be, but it's something that I just don't tolerate very well, or is it actually overdoing itself? And I think I know the answer to this. I think in my opinion, this movie is overdoing it to a large extent. And I think we can talk about why that is as we go along, but probably just to set the story, the scene here is that we're going back to Southport. It's almost 30 years later. It's 1997. Or it's 28 years after 1997. We're in Southport again. We've got a new cast of characters. These characters are very...
Don't you guys, sorry to interrupt, guys. Don't you remember remarkable Southport, North Carolina?
I know.
Southport. Isn't it just like you're walking through, Camp Crystal Lake or, Elm Street?
I do think that is a problem with the movie is that again, it's working off of the stored knowledge in the lore of I Know What You Did Last Summer from 1997. But again, these things do not stand out to to people. I think unless you have really good working intimate knowledge of the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, you'll probably catch on that, like, oh, Southport, okay, I get it, they're going back to that, but it's no Woodsboro, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It's like I was leading up to, like, oh yeah, like it's like Woodsboro, but on the sea. It's Woodsboro on the sea.
Yeah. And I saw somebody's comment about this too that I thought was funny. People were like, yes, the nice coastal mountain range of North Carolina. That's what you always think of when you think of North Carolina, is like a giant mountain range by the sea, overlooking, it's not often that you think about that. There's like this reads like a California person's view of what North Carolina might look like, instead of it just being set in like a Californian town. But anyway, so the whole idea of this movie is basically, what if we took another group of characters that's in Southport, and we basically gave them the same problem. Yeah, well, I mean, not the same problem, but the idea of a problem, right? That, we've been involved in some sort of predicament, and we don't want to go to the police because reasons, so instead of reporting it, we're just going to hide it, and the past will come back to haunt us. In the original film, the whole idea of this process was because they actually hit a person. They were drinking, driving,
underage, in high
flying
school.
up a windy cliff road, and they hit somebody that they didn't notice was in the road. And in that scenario, okay, yes, manslaughter, someone is probably going to be prosecuted for that. Obviously your college prospects are over, things like that. That's going to affect your life. So in that scenario, you could understand why they would want to hide the actual reporting of that. But in this film, we have like 30 something people, like late 20s, early 30s. It's really unclear exactly how old we're supposed to imagine these people are. I found it very difficult to decipher like their age, and I think it makes a difference. It really makes a difference that these are not high schoolers anymore. They are like in their probably late 20s, getting married, having, normal adult-ish things going on in their life, and still kind of acting like the teenagers of the original movie. But in this scenario, they've all gotten together. It's July 4th. They want to go see the fireworks on the mountain, and they're driving up it while smoking a little bit of the cannabis, as they call it in this film, which everybody knows that you refer to weed as cannabis when you're smoking it.
I just want to slap them.
And so they're driving up this windy hill, and they park, and one of the dudes is acting absolutely outlandish that I've never seen anybody smoking weed act like, but basically he's in the middle of the road, and they have a near miss where he almost gets hit by a car, and then another guy's coming flying up this windy hill and crashes through a barricade, and then the car ends up falling off the cliff. And they decide, you know what? He was in the road, so we probably shouldn't report this because we could get in trouble.
What a Gen Z problem. Not like it's like, not like remember the good old days when like you got to get liquored up, drive home, get pulled over by the cops. Sir,
you just be careful, please.
Sir, where are you heading? I'm heading home. Where's home? Like 4 minutes that way. Sir, I'll follow you home.
That's right.
Remember when our law, our officers of the law had morals? Those were the days.
I mean, I think
it's such a, like, again, like, just why change that? Why change that? Because it makes it so fucking stupid. It makes the whole setup and premise so stupid. Why not just like, is it because it's 2025? Nobody gets DUIs anymore. Like, I just don't understand why you would change it to this fucking pansy stupid, like, oh yeah, I'm dancing in the road and there's fireworks going off because it's the 4th of July and oh no, that guy's dead. Well, it's dead man's curve. Oh no. And like, it's just, it's just so stupid. It's like the fact they decided to change that is just so moronic. I don't get it.
And I think, I was thinking about this a little bit more. And I think, in the original, it was more so about the revenge because of the fact that they had that karma, that they didn't report it. And in this film, the vengeance is not so much that they didn't report it, it's that they caused it in the first place. And so that does make sense a little bit to me in the reasons that, like, oh, okay, we changed the scenario around a little bit, but it still makes it very, for the most part of the film, when you're thinking, oh, somebody wants revenge on them for not reporting this to the police, I think that it makes everybody look way worse in this movie, for one thing, that you like, it was clearly like an accident that you could explain away, right? This is not something that was, an intentional or, being super negligent. The guy was going super fast up a very windy road that they call like Dead Man's Bluff, but it's not Dead Man's Bluff, but they call it something similar to that, like Skull Mountain or something. and or 15 Body Pass or something like that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the same part where like the guy in the original died. It's probably like friendly road.
Yeah, right. With the gentrification. Yeah. Nothing bad happened to your boulevard.
Don't look at the
Yeah. But again, I think that the scenario is really does a disservice to the movie, because again, you're kind of like sitting there like, guys, why don't you just call the police? Like, it doesn't. And not only that, I think the funnier thing is they call the police on this, it's super busy, super rich hoity-toity July 4th holiday where no one is on this road, right? To see the fireworks. They've called the police and said, hey, there's a car off the road on here, and then they leave. And then they're the only ones to see the police heading the opposite direction. Like, the police wouldn't be like, whoa, we got an anonymous tip here, and then a car's driving away from the scene. Like, what? No one used any judgment whatsoever there, but I think that's the funnier thing. But anyway.
Well, also because John Saxon was on duty that night, so.
Very true. But I think, like, the whole scenario, I would have been okay with them setting up a completely different scenario. Don't have it be a car accident. Don't have it be on the road. Do it something else that would still signal like, oh, this is, something where the past could come back to haunt you because of your negligence or what you didn't report, or, the guilt of it. But I feel like the way that this plays out in the movie is significantly missing the like pathos or the empathy that you would expect from an audience member, right? Because you kind of want the audience to be siding with the cast of characters in a little bit of a way, because in the original you can see as the audience, you can kind of be like, yeah, I mean, that's a predicament that you're in. And this one, you're kind of like, you dumb fucks, what? It's just fucking tell them what happened, and like you'll be fine, right? Like, not only that is like, you guys,
they're just trying to make it in the Jaws, like, like, it's the 4th of July, everything's fine here, the beaches are open,
and not only does it require that, but like, so Teddy, one of the characters in this, that is, getting married to...
Don't you dare call these people characters.
Is getting married to Danica. His dad is like big time mayor dude who has, rich money, gentrifying the community, basically putting in a bunch of, new entertainment things in the Southport. And so he basically says, hey, Daddy, I caused that accident, but can you cover it up for us? And so he does. Right, uses his money, buys the police force, and covers up the whatever investigation was happening, because during the process of the car falling off the cliff, the guy in the car reaches out and grabs Teddy's jacket for some reason and pulls it down with him. And so you're like, oh, damn, there's like actual evidence that Teddy was at the scene because he has his jacket. And then nothing ever happens with that ever again. It's just kind of forgotten. But they cover it up. And so then we join them in a year later. Everybody's moved on, kind of not really bothered by it. Everybody's kind of just like, yeah, it happened. But of course, they were a little bit bothered. Danica, who was getting married to Teddy, has decided, you know what, maybe I don't want to be with Teddy. He's kind of an asshole. So I'm going to marry some other asshole that has a lot of money. And
they all look the same. Like, there's no distinguishing any of these male characters. It's just, they all just have broccoli cuts, very flowy, open shirts, satin shirts, and like baggy pants. Like Teddy, Milo, and they don't even ever say their names either. So it's like, who, that, and the women too. They don't ever like say anyone's name. So it's like, who the fuck are these people? The only person that's like name gets thrown around a billion times is Stevie. Stevie.
I also like the fact that this film has it kind of a harkening back to 1990s, 2000s era naming conventions, because you have a woman's named Stevie, dude's named Milo, like your dog.
Rough.
You've got a female Tyler, which I love that too. Whenever that happens.
Didn't you like that lovely lesbian pollen on the airplane?
Love it. And
who's it there for? No one. Just to say we're inclusive.
But I think you're getting to something when you're saying everybody seems the same. This movie is really, it's kind of the natural progression of something like what ended up happening with, all those shows on ABC Family and even like HBO Max Euphoria is like, now you can never have a movie where you have like sort of regular people. They always have to be the supermodel variable of what you would consider a normal person, right? So like all the guys in this movie look like 90% of their personality is I go to the gym, right? Right? Like
they're just all brick shit houses.
Yeah, and like all the women are like their personality is all I do is makeup 24/7, and like the film kind of makes a joke about Danica as like she's kind of the epitome of that, where she does like meditation in a blood bath, she's got like a bath bomb that's like a blood bath bomb, and she meditates with her podcast, and marries into money, and can't do anything without having a face full of makeup. And so, but everybody's like that in this movie. There's like, and what ends up happening is none of the characters have any personality whatsoever because they all seem exactly the same. And to the point where, as you stated, all the guys are super similar in both personality, how they act, and how they look. Like, you would be very understandable to mistake Milo, played by Jonah Hauer-King, for the same dude who plays the pastor, Judah Gillespie, because they look super similar. Like, if you put them back to back, like, I don't know that you would be able to notice the difference. At least Tyreek Withers, who plays Teddy, he kind of looks like Mayholm. So I kind of just kind of said, oh, this is the Patrick Mahomes guy. But other than that, like, everybody is very similar. The film does a very poor job of setting out personality. What personality the characters do have is extremely unlikable. Like, I would argue, and this isn't, again, is this cantankerous me who doesn't really like characters like this, the Gen Z-ish type characters, or is this a problem with the movie? This is something that people could write in and just say, hey, Ryan, you're really wrong about this, and here's why. But for me, all of the characters are extremely unlikable. I don't really find any one of them to be relatable in any way. And part of that, too, is that they have no personality. So to try to relate to them in any means is very difficult. And also, the film relies on an extreme amount of exposition, especially at the beginning of the movie, where there's like a almost comical drop of exposition about Stevie, where the film, again, I think that's if you're wondering who the killer might be, there's a clue right there where they have to basically give you her entire backstory in 15 paragraphs.
What's funny is Wikipedia says that she just got out of rehab, and it's like, I don't ever remember them saying like that she left rehab.
They said something about the fact that she was...
They said that she was messed up. And I remember ever hearing them being like, that's Stevie. Yeah, she's fresh out of rehab. You can tell because she's got that heroin chic body in 1997.
I think you would be... it's understandable you missed that because, like I said, it's an exposition dump. It's literally, they see Stevie and they're like, hey, that's Stevie Ward. Yeah, we used to go to school with her. I used to be really good friends with Stevie Ward, but then she got messed up. Messed up how? She got messed up because she got into drinking and they put her into rehab. And then the film switches perspectives to Stevie and you're like, who are they? Oh yeah, those used to be my friends in high school. We used to hang out quite a bit. But then we didn't get it, we sort of separated and we went our ways. And like the film goes on like that for a while with the exposition dump, where it's just comical. It's a way that the film doesn't really know how to get across these characters.
I was just thinking, is she supposed to be like a stand-in for Anne Heche in this movie?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because Anne Heche, I know what you did last summer, is the one that's like, go away, go. Right. I know the secrets, but I won't tell you, and they just kind of.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying that I think that original slashers have great character development either. Like, of course they don't. You've got a 90-minute movie where you are expected to see characters murdered in various ways, and you got a good mix of them. But I would say that most of those movies at least made an attempt to make some of the characters a little bit likable or relatable. And in this case...
Think about, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Like, think about Scream. Any of the Screams or whatever, right? Fits right in. You have, like, Rose McGowan, the, slutty ha-ha girl, and, like, Sydney the virginal, and then you got,
right.
They have
archetypes.
They have these archetypes, but they're actually played to the archetypes.
Yep.
Here, what's the archetype for these characters? They're just rich, snobby assholes.
Right. And that's the thing that you get from this movie is that, like, none of them really feel any different. So there's just no... I would say this... And again, I would say, too, that this movie with the setting, especially, because we haven't really talked about that, but the setting of Southport being very gentrified, being very, very rich to the point where I was like, where the fuck are we? Like, what kind of place? Like, you don't see, again, I understand cities can sometimes be very rich and up, they can have an uptight community, but like you generally see a nice mix, or like on the South side, it's a little bit less nice, but here it's like there's no rundown YMCA or anything. Everybody's going to like the state of the art, just newly built gym that has like a AI sauna that tells you exactly how, the temperature you need to reach to be getting rid of your toxins. It's just outlandish. And I would say that, again, that's part of the film's difficulty in providing relatability. And what you want from a movie is like this, like a slasher, is of course you want some of that schadenfreude of the audience to be like, damn, I'm glad I'm not that person, or like, I'm not an asshole, so I wouldn't get my karma like that. But at the same time, you do want the audience to be able to relate it to a certain extent to the characters and kind of see themselves in it and be like, yeah, I could see myself as the final girl or that person that, might be in that situation.
Again, hate to harp on it, but again, let's go back to Scream. What makes the opening of Scream so impactful?
Yeah, I mean that it's someone that you're expecting
to not
die.
To not die, and it's a very like believable setup.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I think that kind of happens again and again. Now, I will say Jennifer Caden Robinson does have a good eye for setting up these set pieces, these locales, because it is, the direction, the cinematography is pretty good in this movie. While I do think that the film oftentimes has a direct-to-video feel to it, the actual money that Columbia threw into this movie for some reason is pretty intense. I mean, it's not a low-budget movie by any means. So
films like this are why, Hollywood's like going tits up. It's
right. Exactly.
There was no need for this to be a, theatrical release and to have nearly $50 million budget.
So we've talked pretty extensively about the characters, and it's pretty clear that, we didn't like them, but we got a lot more to talk about. So I think we need to move on a little bit here. So in terms of the actual slasher element, the guy with a slicker and a fish hook that is omnipresent in both the original and this one. How do you think the film does with that, with the killer appearances and everything else?
Bored out of my mind, tedious. The kills aren't impactful at all. They're all just very one note.
Do you think it's gorier than some of the other average slasher films?
Not by today's standards, no. But also too, a lot of the kills and stuff that, as you mentioned while we were watching in theaters, they just rip off a bit, 7 different horror films while they're fucking, doing half the kills,
The movie owes a lot to, of course it owes a lot to its original, but it owes a lot to Scream as well. I mean, there are a lot of shots. The one in particular that really struck me is when Tyreek is being murdered outside while his parents are inside his like vast compound mansion house where his dad is like so far away that he can't hear the screams of blood curdling screams that Teddy is yelling out. And he's crawling on the ground as the killer is kind of just walking behind him maliciously. Very much reminiscent of the opening of Scream, where she's crawling in the grass towards the house and her parents are getting home. That was like, I was like, holy shit, that's like kind of stolen shot for shot almost. But yes, I would say, again, I think this film does have its moments of like nice setups, especially in terms of like the actual cinematography and the locations, the settings of it, because it is pretty, it's got a nice complicated scenario to it of where they're set in all these like very rich, luxurious mansion houses. I mean, the one guy has a fucking automated door for his house. Like it's like a Kmart or something, It's a little bit nicer than the Kmart style where like maybe one side of the door doesn't work, but it's still an automated sliding door.
All I could think, excuse me, all I could think of is like all these houses are. These people must work for the fine people in Breaking Bad at Gray Matter, because they're all have these like stupid, luxurious mountainside, ocean view, homes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that one thing that struck me about the killer. I mean, I think the whole idea of a killer as the Gorton's fisherman is,
Eat your fish sticks.
From the original, I think
ring the bell, like it's like Long John Silver's ring the bell.
Yeah. I mean, I still think like in the original, it is kind of a hokey idea, even going back to the 1997 one, to have this dude who's running around in a rain slicker, like and I don't know, it is kind of a hokey idea, but like I'm on board with it. It's just like kind of iconic. So it makes sense that this film brings it back in such a way. So I'm fine with it. One thing I didn't really care for in this movie is that, and it's not just the killer, but everyone seems to be just able to sneak up on people like they have no footsteps whatsoever. It's just like this movie employs a lot of shots of people who are just like there behind people, and they're like turn around like, whoa, where did you come from? It's like. And then there's another scene too that I found really funny is where Tyreek Withers' character Teddy basically does like a lineman tackle on the fisherman, and then he's just gone like into thin air. I leaned over to you. I was like, is this dude non-corporeal or something? Like he's just in the sea fog, just kind of misting around wherever he wants to, because he literally just tackled the dude and then like looks at the floor and he's gone. So I really didn't care for the whole, like, oh, the killer can just slip away, so easily. And that's something that's employed with a lot of slashers. I'll admit. And I also should admit that I know that what we're criticizing here is not really just I Know What You Did Last Summer thing of 2025. Slashers do this quite often. And I'm not trying to nitpick some of the things that slashers might do, and it's kind of like just implied that slashers have these things. But at the same time, I feel like this movie just did not do a good job with all of the things that make up a slasher. And so I think when we nitpick stuff like that, it was just icing on the cake of things that we did not like about this movie. Well, we haven't discussed it, peeled it back at all. What do you think about the return of Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt? Because that was heralded in the lead up to this movie.
Hate it. You don't need the checks. You guys are doing fine. Please, why?
Yeah.
Why sully your good names?
I mean, I think that this movie really wanted the Scream element of having Jennifer Love Hewitt come back as Julie James,
being Mav, and
right,
Freddie being Dewey.
It wanted that, but I think at the same time, when you really sit down and think about it, it makes a lot of sense in the Scream franchise to have Nev come back because she's kind of targeted by Ghostface. And it's sort of like the whole premise of Scream revolves around Nev Sidney to some extent, that Ghostface was created because of her. She basically, not intentionally, but she created that monster. And that monster is always, and it's kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween as well. That monster is always intimately connected with those people. Now, in Jennifer Love Hewitt's case, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, ended up murdering a dude, and then there was vengeance for that. And I would not say that those two things connect very well to this requel. And that if I were her, and a teen, they're not teens. They're like
some 44-year-old.
Yeah. If they
woman
they came to me and said, "What should I do?" It's like, well, and she kind of says this in the movie, like, "Well, what did you do last summer? Like, you did it again. This was your actions, and there are consequences, but it doesn't really need to involve Julie because she has very little involvement." And I would say in this movie, she has really little involvement as well. She's just kind of there to be a mentor figure. The same with Freddie Prinze Jr.
Again, to be Sidney, to be Nev, to be Dewey, to be like,
right.
It's like, that's why I find that all to be trite, because there's literally no reason for them to be back other than, woo, hey, to the stars from the original are back.
Right.
There's no reason for them to be here. Not like, oh yeah, if someone was chasing me, I'd go kill him. What are you giving that advice for?
Yeah.
It's like, I was just sad. Because it's just like, you guys don't have to do it. You have money. You don't have to keep doing, it's like the same thing when Courtney Cox shows up and shit. It's like, you don't have to do it. You have eternal money. It's just,
yeah.
David Arquette, I can understand. He doesn't have eternal money. But
I mean, and I think, like, especially, I'm really saddened of what they did with Freddie Prinze Jr. Because
what a jabroni they made him.
Yeah, because again, I don't love the fact that the film kind of tries to play this off as some male trauma. Because at the end of the film, they literally say men should just go to therapy instead of being a serial murderer. And it's like, yeah, but again, they made it so dumb. It's like the film, even at the end.
Not only that, I was saying, not only that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I might be saying the same point. When we find out, spoiler, Stevie's the killer, she gives a whole spiel on, like, I'm the woman, I'm a powerful woman, and I'm here for my vengeance, and all and then at the end, with, like, you find out that Freddy's tied to it too. They're like, it's just if men went to therapy, like, what the fuck does it have to do with anything? Like, none of it makes sense. Like, it's so fucking batshit stupid. It's so stupid. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, like, I think that this film does try to deal with trauma to a certain extent, but again, it just really doesn't know what to do with the character. So at the end of the day, especially with Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character Ray, it's sort of it like has to shoehorn in the fact that he, like, it tries really hard to even figure out what his motive would be in this. It's like it takes like 5 minutes of the conclusion to just go through the process of, like, Ray, really? He's like, yeah, I needed people to remember what happened to us. It's like, what? Like, how does that even align with what you're doing right now?
If anything, it'd make more sense if it was like, because of the trauma that Stevie went through and, like, her need, like, being at her lowest point, I was there to help her because I understand trauma,
Yeah.
I have experienced trauma. That would make sense instead of just like, yeah, I just want to do what I can to do it,
Yeah,
they need to remember us. Like, that's like, that whole premise of the film is so fucking stupid. All the town, they jaws it up where it's like, no one remembers what happened 30 years ago. We need to be remembered. Like, is this supposed to be like a stand-in for, like, Yeah, back in 1998, there was a lot of parodies of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Right.
But now, no one gives a shit. It's like, yeah, there's a reason why. You were in the zeitgeist and you got booted out pretty quick because you weren't that important.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty offended by the end of the film being so, like, almost nonchalant about its reveal. It was just very kind of... And again, I think this is part of the problem with the movie is that it doesn't really have much going for it in terms of like asking the viewer to have any kind of inclination of who the killer could be. There's really no... It doesn't really ask of the audience to even attempt to think about who it is. I would say there's really not even red herrings involved in this movie.
There's one.
Who?
And that's the priest.
Yeah, the priest, yeah, for a certain extent. But again, all of those things kind of come out of nowhere. So, like, all of a sudden, it's just like, hey, this priest is here. We think it's him. There's really no... there's no, like, besides the fact that he has a creepy, church and, all organized religion to some extent is a little bit questionable. There's really nothing to pinpoint him in particular. And I would say that the other problem is that, when the film really gets down to it and, Stevie is revealed, Stevie is just not that much of a character. Again, we only know about her because of the exposition that the film has given us directly. She's not really involved in the proceedings that often. So we don't really know that much about her at all. And so for us to be able to even have an idea of that it could be her, I think is just... there's just no possible way for you to be able to divulge that. You wouldn't know because you have no idea about her. And I think that's just another problem with I Know What You Did Last Summer. It doesn't... I think, like, again, the ending kind of comes off like a wet fart. And that's because at the end of the day, after what is it, 110 minutes of sitting through all of this, very bland, kind of boring predicament that they're in, that kind of moves through all of the scenarios of the original I Know What You Did Last Summer in different manners. There's really nothing here that makes you go, I can't wait to find out who that killer is. You just at the end, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, all right, it's Stevie, yeah, whatever. Oh, okay, it was Ray as well. I mean, I was mad that they did Freddie Prinze Jr. like that. But again, I just feel like everything kind of happens, and you just are...
Not only that, I want to get your take, because how do you feel about them screaming it up with two killers?
Yeah.
Of having to shove that in. Like, it couldn't just be one. They had to have...
I mean, I do think to a certain extent, with the way that the film plays out, you absolutely had to have a guy killer involved, because some of the, again, like we talked about how the male characters in this movie are pretty ripped. Like, Teddy goes to the gym. Milo is, still a pretty, beefy looking dude, even though he's not to the certain extent as Teddy. And then the killer goes toe to toe with them and, like, literally does, fisticuffs. You just would not have Stevie would not have the strength to be able to do some of the things that she, like, is proposed to have done. So you have to have a guy as well. And not only that, but, like, whenever the fisherman walks, he has, like, the pounding of the Doomslayer on the floor. Like, how it sounds like he's 500 pounds with the boots on the ground. But so I think, like, it had to have a male killer to some extent besides Stevie. And I don't know. I feel like
But my question,
your question is still Scream, two killers. Does that? I don't know. I mean, I think to some extent,
I'm tired of it.
You're tired of the duality of it. It's like,
yes, because, like, with the Screams and when as they progressed with, like, the newer ones, of, like, having like a it's a 4-way of this. And it's like, just stop. Like, you don't. It's the same thing with, like, the meta talk. Like, you can get away with, like, the meta. It's not 2011 anymore. Like, meta's not that's, like, incredibly smart and engaging. Like, just stop. Like, you don't have to do it because, again, if you can't pull it off well, like, just having it there, like, I get it from a logistics standpoint. Like, yeah, Stevie, the 70-pound wonder bitch, wasn't going to be, knocking these dudes out and, like, cutting their heads off. But again, at the same time, it's like, I feel like it was only there for one to give a reason for Freddie Prinze to be a killer. It's too leaning into Wes Craven and, Kevin Williamson's good work.
Yeah.
Blaze your own trail. I understand the first film was written by Kevin Williamson and was, a poor man's, Scream. I understand that. But at the same time, if you're going to remake it and try to stand out from the original, stand out. Don't tie yourself, like a boat anchor to both properties.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that it wants to have it both ways, and I think the culmination of that element would be later on. We have to have like a movie where there's a slasher where they don't kill any of the main group, and it ends up being that the film is kept from you the whole time that all of the main group are the killers. Like, every single one of the main group is the killer at this point, because I think that would be the culmination of like the film kind of playing a trick on you, sort of in the same vein of like April Fool's Day. That's kind of where the slasher needs to go. Because again, yes, we're going to keep getting more and more killers. Like, no, it was 5 killers that were involved in this one and 6 killers. So I don't know. I mean, I think that I think it's tough because again, the one killer, I think films like this kind of try to play it up because they realize that the reveal is the big thing, and they want that reveal to go on as long as possible. And in this film, it certainly does. Again, this film is like 110 minutes, is way too long. Way, 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 way too long. There are so many moments that could have been cut out of this film to make at least like a nice 90-minute concise film. And again, all of those moments.
I was thinking too of what usually it's me. You were the one aggressively checking your watch every 5 minutes. It was great.
Yeah, because it just kept going. And I think again, for one thing, it's just too long to spend in the presence of these people that suck. You just don't really like them. But again, it doesn't really use it to its advantage. It's not like we're getting a whole lot of development about these characters. I think probably the main thing that would have been even more interesting that the film kind of goes into and then forgets about is the fact that Ava, our main protagonist, has a lot of guilt about what happened, and so she kind of punishes herself, and that comes out in her the aggressive sex that she has.
Are you sure she's the main character? Because on Wikipedia it has Diane as the main.
Danica.
Whatever.
Danica, yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, it's again. I think the film misses a lot of chances to kind of really go into these characters a little bit better. So, out of an hour and 50 minutes, it's wasting a lot of time. We didn't talk about the fact that again, this film really, it's clear, really, really, really wanted to get Sarah Michelle Gellar back in. From the outset, there's multiple instances of the film just showing her head as part of the original I Know What She Did Last Summer, Helen Shivers, for her being the what do they call it, the corker queen or something like that of Southport, whatever they call that. So it's clear they really wanted to get her in, and so they end up using her in a dream sequence that is again just a waste of time, I think. I'm all for seeing Sarah Michelle Gellar, but they could have done it in some sort of flashback. I don't think we really needed to see a useless dream sequence. I don't know how you felt about that, but
I agree. Again, we were joking the entire time that that they're well, Freddie and Sarah must have done a coin toss on who has to be in this shit, and then she shows up, and it's oh god damn it. And not only that, though, too, they have the gall to have this film when it has 2 minutes of her in it. And she is spectacular in it. she is very, bitchy and condescending and great in that. Even though her end is ruined by horrendous CGI. They have the gall to say starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, and then featuring Freddie Prinze, featuring Jennifer Love Hewitt, who are like in the film 20 times more than her. I mean, granted, Freddie and Sarah are one unit, so it's a paycheck. God bless. But at the same time, like, it's just like, it's so just like, oh, like, yeah. Guys, remember Sarah Michelle Gellar, the not star of I Know You Did Last Summer? Like the fifth person down on that list? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't care. I wish they would just have used her in some sort of, flashback sequence, something like that. We didn't really need that unnecessary dream sequence. Again, like I said, I love Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think she did a great job. She really embodied Helen Shivers yet again. The facial features, all of that, spot on, excellent. Which again, just kind of cements the fact that like this film is so barren of anything else that you like have to kind of grab at straws. You're like, film is not good, but Sarah Michelle Gellar, she did a pretty good job. I'll give her that. Freddie Prinze Jr., he doesn't have that much range, but he's not too bad. And I love how he comes in like Quint in the fucking town hall. Like, you sure about that? There's a fisherman running around.
Eyes, black eyes,
Jennifer Love Hewitt, presence always welcome. She's great, nice, but again, I don't think the film uses her in any real purposeful way. So, I don't know. And then not only that, but there is that post-credit sequence that we haven't talked about. And we saw this movie in theaters. There was probably like 7 other people in it. None of them felt the need to even stick around for the end of the like first part of the credits sequence. So if that tells you anything, I felt like the engagement level for the movie was low, but I don't know. Maybe people did like it, but they did leave before that even, that post credit sequence occurred. But getting Brandy in there, poor Brandy too, had to be drawn through the thicket to come in and do this movie for a really unnecessary throwaway attempt at like getting a sequel together, which I do not think that's happening. But I think based on the box office alone, this film did not do very well at the box office. I don't think they'll be creating a sequel for it, but
I wonder why.
I think we've done a pretty good job of laying out exactly why that is. Anything else that we didn't discuss? What else?
I think that's about it.
I mean, I think we covered it. Like, I think our dislike and our ire for the film itself is pretty apparent. There's really not that much that I can say about it that I actually legitimately liked, from the dialogue to the characters to the actual kill sequences and the reveal. I think the one thing that I would say was actually not that bad was the cinematography itself. It does look like a big budget movie. It's got a lot of good locations. Maybe not used in the best manner, but what have you. So, I guess we got to rate this thing, and I think we decided on a rating of R. Right? This was an R rating, which was regrettable.
The hard R
for us. Regrettable. But on a scale of 0 to 10, broccoli hair, which is all too prevalent throughout this movie, what would you give I Know What You Did Last Summer?
3 out of 10. This film pisses me off. It just sticks in my craw so badly. And it's not even for a property that I even care that much about. It's tedious, it's long-winded, it's boring, it's uninteresting. None of the actors outside of Freddie and Jennifer and Sarah are any good, and they phone it in anyway. Nothing about this film is good. There's no good here. It's a boring, terrible, meandering piece of shit that's 2 hours long. There's no reason for this film to be 2 hours long. There's no reason for this film to even fucking exist. I don't understand. Somebody from, like, one of the reviews from, like, somebody from a magazine was like, lighthearted, light, fun romp. Like, what are you fucking talking about? This film is so boring and tedious. There's no fun to be had here. This film doesn't know what fun is. There's no, none of the kills are exciting. Nothing about this film sticks out as even being deserved to have $50 million in this tight economy to be burned on this piece of shit. It's such a horrible, bad watch. And like I said, I'm not even a big fan of the first. So I can only imagine the Gen Xers and millennials of yore who are into the slashers and who are deeply ingrained into this and do have actual real nostalgia for the original, how they feel. Because again, I don't know who this film is for. There's nothing enjoyable about it. I didn't enjoy a single fucking second of this film. It's like just tedium the film. It's a piece of shit. It's a 3 out of 10. What a waste of fucking time and money. Ugh.
Yeah, I would give it a 4 out of 10, I think. I mean, I'm giving it some benefit of the doubt in that, again, I don't think that I Know What You Did Last Summer as a franchise is really all that worthwhile to bring back as a requel anyway. It doesn't have that much staying power when you think about the original film. So there's really only a couple iconic elements from it. And what you're left with is trying to make a copy of a copy. And it's really, again, it's like that meme of where you just keep losing pixels until you get to really nothing left. And I think that this film has a lot of that. Like, again, it seems like everybody surrounding this film, especially Jennifer Caton Robinson, has some sort of, I guess nostalgia for the original. But I don't know. I mean, it seems to be hearkening to a group of people that don't really exist, especially considering the fact that it's, like we said, very Gen Z-ified to the point where a lot of these characters don't really feel relatable in any way. It's like, who is this written for? I mean, the people that it was written for, they're presumably written for, would probably not even know the original I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, maybe that's a blessing in disguise for this movie. Maybe people would be open to it a little bit more if they didn't know the original, but I don't know. I feel like for most people who would be watching this for nostalgia value, they're not going to enjoy it very much. I feel like it doesn't do all of that well. It feels like a copy of just trying to cash in on Scream, and much like back in 1997, how this I Know What You Did Last Summer started out as just a basically another attempt at creating a Scream franchise from Kevin Williamson. It's the same idea with this one, to try to do a requel of something that worked really well with Scream. Again, and everything that you've seen from this movie, from the releases, the trailer, the poster artwork, all of that seemed really generic at the time. Well, so is the movie. It doesn't really do all that much different. Again, like I said, it does have some nice visuals, some cool set pieces. It does seem to have a big budget element to it, and some good cinematography. But at the same time, everything else about it feels really direct to video. All of the actors are really just kind of not that great, not recognizable, don't really have much personality to them. And I found myself just getting very annoyed the longer this movie went on, especially considering that it is an hour and 50 minutes. And by the end of it, I was just like, all right, come on, let's get this thing over with. And in the attempt at trying to solidify a sequel just made me angry at the even angrier at the end of the movie. I was like, don't you dare.
And you know what? They will. They'll get away with it too.
Yeah, I know. They're going to get away with it. I was like, don't you dare try to bring this back for a sequel. But so anyway, 4 out of 10 for me. I would definitely not recommend this. And I think we've been pretty harsh about, other slasher movies of the time, but I think, we were pretty fair for Hard Eyes, and this one definitely does not match up with some of the better fare that's come out recently. And also, it reminded me a lot of something like My Bloody Valentine 3D. There's a lot of sequences where this almost looks like it was shot for 3D, like when they do the whole harpoon sequence where they like zoom in on the end of the tip of the harpoon or like the hook. I was like, man, this is really like My Bloody, and that's not a compliment, by the way.
Somebody has to keep reminding them that, sir, that died like 7 years ago.
The 3D element is gone. We're not doing that again. But not a compliment to be similar to My Bloody Valentine 3D. So yeah. All right. So that's that. Time and money not well spent.
Could have fed a country.
Yeah. I think we pretty soon we got to move into our red hot, whatever we're doing, 90s action summer.
Next week, because we got 4 weeks.
I know. We have to put that together still. We haven't really discussed what we want to do for it. So we'll have to come up with the game plan on that. But, yeah.
February.
We've been busy, so it's been tough to do. I don't know why we spent the time on something like this. It's really regrettable. Again,
should have done it. We could have done. We could have done Eddington. We could have done Phoenicians.
I know. Could have done any of those, and we chose to do this one instead. So, but yeah, thanks for listening. Tune in next for our Red Hot 90s Action Summer. You can listen to us on pretty much any podcast app that you use. We're on our home base at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you use, we're on it. So subscribe, leave us a nice review. We have Facebook and Blue Sky. Search for us on there. We have an email address at bloodblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Tell us how wrong we are about the Gen Z-ification of these types of movies. And we also have a Patreon or Spotify page. Anything you donate goes back towards beer. So we appreciate that in advance. Anything else to add before we close it out?
Fuck that movie.
Eloquently spoken. All right. Well, until our Red Hot 90s Action Summer.
Take care.